Welcome back to another episode of Built and Backed. I'm excited to have James He joining us today. James is the co-founder, and CEO of Artificial Societies, a company at the forefront of simulating human social dynamics using AI. With a background spanning data science, behavioral sciences, and entrepreneurship, James has dedicated his career to bridging technology and human understanding. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. After reading your bio, which is in our show notes for our listeners, you have a very impressive background. And so I'd love to start off this episode by having you share more about yourself, what you're working on with artificial societies, and even what led you to co-founding it.
Yeah, of course. For a little bit of personal background, I left home when I was 14 to go to New Zealand for school on my own. And then I went to Cambridge to study behavioral science. But my interest has always been at the intersection between understanding humans and understanding technology. I guess I was reading Walter Isaacson's biographies of innovators from a young age, and I was just quite inspired by that, of
Mhm.
thinking about what's that intersection between technology and humanity. So, despite being a physics kid back in high school, I decided to take behavioral science as my main focus at Cambridge. So, to
Mhm.
have that balance between tech and humanity. So, you can say that artificial societies has been what my life was leading up to at the time.
Yeah. And so I think it's great to hear how you kind of made that switch. Like you said, you were a physics kid in high school, and then you kind of changed gears to focus on that intersection that you feel really passionate about with the humans and technology piece. And so, for our listeners who may not have heard of artificial societies before, could you give an overview of what it is and what you're building?
Of course. So artificial societies, we essentially we use a large group of AI chatbots to simulate how a large group of people will react to information and influence one another. So some of our customers, for example, use us to test how their customer group will react to, say, a new product strategy, a new market push, a new marketing message, or even their investor pitch sometimes. So that's essentially what we do today.
Wow. And so, from like you said, a marketing standpoint, and then also you said for an investor pitch, I mean, you're giving the users who are using societies like a really great, I guess, scenario, but they could expect an outcome to
Exactly.
be depending on what they're looking to achieve.
Yes, basically, we've seen a lot of interesting use cases from people who are preparing different scenarios or coming up with mitigation strategies before they take a bet in the real world. It's
Mhm.
essentially like a risk-free sandbox where you get to experiment all sorts of bold ideas. Because, sometimes we can't afford to make a mistake in the real world, but hey, you have a you have a simulation, you can just simulate it and make sure that you are prepared before you take the bet in real life.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, like you said, for anyone who may be risk averse, kind of nervous of doing something that might have negative repercussions, by being able to test the waters, so to say, beforehand, they can see, okay, what are the potential outcomes of this based on what the use of your AI chatbots are kind of telling them.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, imagine if you had 10,000 ChatGPTs playing your exact customers individually, and they're all chatting with one another, and you can put a new product idea in this swarm and see how they react to it, what sort of narratives form, and what sort of reaction are they going to give. That's essentially an artificial society. So our company, we do what we say on the tin. We sell artificial societies. That's
Yeah.
essentially the company name.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm curious to hear if anyone if a user who has come across artificial societies has been hesitant, or maybe if they've said to you, what happens if I get a really positive response or outcome from these chatbots, but then I go to actually deploy whatever I'm looking to
Hmm.
do and it's a negative outcome. Is that something that you come across where people might have that hesitancy and worry how to work around that ultimately?
Absolutely. I think trust is the most important thing in our line of work because our customers can't afford to get it wrong. So
Hmm.
we can afford to get it wrong. And what we've observed so far, how our customers use us, in what scenarios they use us, is that in cases where it's just really, they just really urgently need to make a decision, they don't
Hmm.
have the time to conduct an A/B test experiment or a focus group test, or it's just impossible to try a super confidential new product or a new line of marketing to a real group of people. They're like, okay, we can't afford to get this wrong, and there's no alternative for us to do it.
Hmm.
Artificial societies, can you help us come up with mitigation strategies, war game this out in your simulation? We find that that seems to be quite valuable for some of our customers because yeah, like it's just so hard to make that bet in the real world. I think we are probably best suited to provide that kind of services there because if you think about it in real life, if you do a survey or do a real focus group, that risk still exists. But
Hmm.
most businesses can't afford to even do the test. So what we are providing is this sort of like light version of a photo focus group. You can get a turnaround in within the day, sometimes within the hour. If you are doing it in our self-serve platform, that's within a minute. You can
Oh
get
my
some sort
gosh.
of guidance rather than having to spend, say, 3 weeks trying to do something. And 3 weeks will be a really fast turnaround for traditional market research.
Totally. But what you just shared there, I think is key that like being able to get the information someone is looking for at the time that they need it is huge because, of course, things move so quickly in this world that, like you said, people
Yeah.
can't always afford to wait a handful of weeks or a handful of months to get the potential outcomes that they might be anticipating. Instead, they kind of
Yeah.
need ultimately we are in an instant gratification society. So people kind of
Yes.
need that instant gratification or instant
Sometimes, yeah.
information.
Sometimes you just can't afford the time lag when you are making a decision. I think especially we are seeing that actually thanks to AI, there's a lot more enterprise and a lot more businesses are now willing to move a lot faster, or at least they're forced by the board to move a lot
Yeah.
faster. And then so they are under a lot of pressure to make big decisions that they can't afford to get wrong, but they don't have the time to do the traditional research. So I think we are seeing how that manifests within the market for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, like there's so many external pressures and obligations that people have that they kind of need to
Hmm,
align with those. So being able to provide the information to their stakeholders or whoever it might be, I think
absolutely.
is really great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And I know you shared two interesting use cases, one being like an investor pitch and one being anything to do with like marketing or products and stuff like that. Are there any other really interesting use cases you've seen your users deploy?
Yeah, so when we said the product and marketing, those are actually two separate use cases almost. One side is what sort of message would resonate well with my
Mhm.
customers. So the usual here is that one of our clients would want to expand to a new market, but they don't
Mhm.
know how to communicate their new offering so that it doesn't confuse their current customers, but also can hit the new customers. So that messaging piece, we've been able to help people test how do they frame that messaging so that they get it just right before they spend a lot of marketing money behind that push. And
Mhm.
on the product side, this was actually quite wild, is that we saw people testing their app design. So they will have a mobile app, for example, and they are designing their onboarding screens. And we will see people testing different onboarding screens to see which one gets the better response. And so our guess is that they are using artificial societies to test onboarding journeys and do that funnel optimization of are people going to prefer this landing page over that landing page, this landing sort of screen over that landing screen. So that's something that we really didn't anticipate when we first set out to build this.
Mhm.
So that's quite cool to see. Again, it sort of ties back to how everyone is moving so much faster now because of AI. So traditionally, you will do that A/B test in the real world. You will spend a couple of weeks setting up the A/B test. You might wait a month to gather enough data from real users' usage, and then you will
Mhm.
decide, okay, I'm gonna go with option A versus
Yeah.
option B. But now, because everyone is moving so much faster, because your competitors are churning out vibe-coded apps every day, then you can't afford to wait for 1.5 months. You have to just at least make sure that both your A and B counts when you're
Mhm.
doing an experiment. Pre-experiment 20 options, take the two survivors, and then run that real experiment because you just can't afford losing a potential half of your funnel to a inferior conversion screen. So that was something interesting that we saw from our users. And honestly, it presents one of our biggest challenges today, which is there's so many different use cases. It doesn't seem like we can hunker down in one and just stay there. It seems like we just need to focus on building a really good technology so that our users can use us for any kind of vertical use cases that they see fit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, with that A/B testing and being able to help companies differentiate themselves from their competitors and make sure they're not losing their clients or customers or users
Hmm.
to competitors is huge.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite exciting.
Yeah, I know. So many cool things going on. I would love to hear what you might have planned in the near future for artificial societies. If there's any new features that you can talk about that might be coming soon, or any updates, or how you are continuing to improve it and make it even greater.
Yeah, so we have a continuous research effort, and recently we partnered up with Pulsar platforms, which is a audience intelligence provider. So they help brands like Twitch and Doc Martin
Mhm.
track how their brand is being perceived on social media. So they have a lot of data on how are narratives forming in real human society. So we are working with them to, on the one hand, introduce more data into our technology to make it more accurate in terms of simulating real large-scale human narratives. And on the other hand, also provide this technology to enterprises that Pulsar is currently working with. So we are quite excited about this partnership, and that's probably going to be our main focus for the remainder of this year, if not going on to 2026.
That's amazing. And I think that's one of like the best things about being in tech is finding organizations that are offering organizations or other companies that are offering something that's complementary to yours. You're like, "Hey,
Hmm.
we have similar missions. We're working to support the same types of people and companies. Like, why not let's partner up and make a really great
Absolutely.
outcome?"
Absolutely. Yeah, we like this kind of partnerships because this allows us to focus on what we are good at, which is
Yeah.
developing that simulation technology. And we work with different vertical application partners to introduce this technology to the world. That's what we want to optimize on building a useful technology because originally, I was working on this idea as a researcher, as an academic researcher when I was at Cambridge. And then I realized that, you know what? The best way to develop a technology is not by trying to get a lot of citations from your papers. It's by building something people want. It's by
Mhm.
making something that some people can live without, making something useful. So that was one of the original motivation of starting artificial societies. So we try our best to live with that principle in our business decision as well. Make something useful.
Oh, absolutely. And that was such a good quote that you shared right there. It's about building what people want, building something people can't live without. And I feel like that should be 100% at the core of what every startup is looking to do. Building something that their ideal user base or clients or customers truly need in their life, identifying that problem and building that solution for them. And as you've shared here, that's really what artificial societies have been focusing on.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
well, if any of our listeners are trying to find an idea and trying to validate it, you can actually simulate your customers and
Yeah.
see if they would like this idea. So that would be quite fun.
Totally, yeah. And if you're comfortable talking about this, I'd love to dive more into the partnership thing that you mentioned because I feel like that is a really um, untapped channel for a lot of founders is being able to build these partnerships with like-minded organizations. And so I'd love to hear from your experience, like what makes a good partnership? How do you know it's the right path to follow? So I think for a lot of founders and being in tech specifically, it's really easy to just say yes because you get so
Mm.
excited, but not everything is a yes. And so I'm curious to hear your process for knowing it was the right fit and knowing that it's also mutually beneficial for both companies.
Mm. Obviously, we are still very early stage, so it may be
Mhm.
too soon to tell. We'll see. We'll see. But our one of the things that sometimes we observe a lot of founders sort of ignore in partnership or hiring or any kind of thing when it comes to bringing another human or working with another human, sometimes even in co-founder choices for more early stage teams,
Yeah.
is that they quite over focus on intelligence or attitude, but they ignore whether they can get along with each other.
Hmm.
That human part of can you get along with each other is actually what made us humans able to create all of these crazy innovation that we've been able to do for the last 10,000 years, is that
Hmm.
we're able to work with one another. So we over-index on that. We over-index on like to put it in a simple way, we over-index on vibes, on whether we can get along with our partners. It's quite
Hmm.
important. It's more important than a lot of people think. Because in
Yeah.
order to build anything that lasts, you need the people to be able to work together for a long period of time. And it's not going to be all smooth sailing. There's going to be moments when your mutual customers don't like your product, or there's going to be moments when, so say you are working with your co-founder, you fail to raise money. What happened now? Well, a co-founder is a lot more important than an investor. And
Hmm.
even with investor, I think it's quite important to think about, are you able to work well? Are you able to get along with each other well? So we sort of extend this operating principle to thinking about partnerships as well. It
Hmm.
mostly is just about, do we see there a path of us two groups of humans working together to build something? And thankfully, we have evolved to be able to make that judgment rather well. And that's what we call vibes. And so actually listen to your gut. Do you feel like you can work with that team, work with that person? Do you see yourself hanging out with each other being and be able to ship something? If so, great, congratulations. Then try it out, do a pilot project together and see how it goes. But again, caveat here, we are still very early on. It might be too soon to tell. It may be that you just need to get them to sit an IQ test and forget about the vibe, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that was amazing advice that you shared there, especially tying in like the similarities between finding a co-founder and then also creating a partnership with another company. But you really nailed it there by saying, like, do you get along with them? Do you mesh
Mm.
well? Do your personalities work well? Can you complement each other's strengths and weaknesses? And I think that part there is key for anything in tech, whether,
Yeah.
like you said, you're finding a co-founder, you're building some type of partnership, making sure that you get along with the person and that you have those common agreements, I think is really important.
Yes. And can you communicate well when you disagree?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that I have that kind of relationship with my co-founder, Patrick.
Mhm.
We usually have a conflict resolution time of 15 minutes, and we're quite proud of that because I don't think many founders, co-founder relationship have this level of just super fast conflict resolution and turnaround, and resolving all sorts of disagreements. And I think that's super important for the longevity of a startup, as well as if you are working with a partner, can you communicate with each other well? If you're working with an investor, can you communicate with each other when you disagree?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, I'm curious to hear if you've ever experienced that as you've gone to get new investors, if you've experienced any differences in perspectives or whatever it might be when it comes to VCs, if you've been able to successfully navigate that as some advice for other founders listening.
There's a lot of VC advice. Um, I think we are probably there are many other people whose advice you can find online and you can listen to, and then I think there's a lot of noise in this area.
Mhm.
But to us, it comes down to this core principle that capital is fungible. It's a
Mm,
humans that are not fungible. So index on the human, not on the capital. Because $1 million from one investor is going to be exactly the same as another $1 million from another investor. What's going to make the difference is the human that comes with that $1 million. A lot of investors would be a value subtraction um, that comes with the money. You wish that, so, a neutral money is one that doesn't come with a human. Great. Like, like they will not intervene with your business. A
mhm.
bad investor is one that will intervene. So it's really rare. Well, sorry, I wouldn't say that it's very rare. Let me correct myself there. I think it would be very great to find an investor that is a truly a human value add on top of the capital. And we've been very lucky to have worked with great investors in our journey so far. So that
Yeah.
we are quite lucky on that.
Yeah. And that's a really good way to phrase it. Like $1 million is the same as $1 million like elsewhere. And so being able to
Yeah,
think about like the humans behind it, I think totally makes a difference in that. I love that you shared that perspective and mindset right there.
thanks.
Yeah. And one thing you mentioned before we began recording, which I think so many founders can relate to, is that it seems like the day never ends when you're a founder. Like there's always something to be working on. You're very passionate about what you're doing. So, of course, that definitely helps with having those long days and working every single day each week. But I'm curious to hear how you keep that momentum going. I mean, of course, there's so much talk online of founder mental health and burnout and stuff like that, which absolutely should be prioritized. And so, as you've been building artificial societies, how have you been able to make sure that you're taking care of yourself as a founder as you continue to scale this company?
That's a great question. We have this interesting setup where so I live together with my co-founder, and so we have a flat that we converted into an office. So we have like our office is literally in the living room, and we live here. A lot of people will say, wow, you live in the office. That's like no work-life balance. But actually, for us, this has made life so much easier. During summer, we had an intern from the Bay Area coming over to London to stay with us. And because of that, my co-founder had to commute in from his girlfriend's place. That was the toughest month for Patrick. He was like, I
Mm.
would never doing this again. I will never allow an intern to take my room ever again. I will live there. It's my room. I deserve. I'm a co-founder of this company. Intern, they can commute. I don't care. I don't care. No, no, he does. But so he just realized that, like it's a 40-minute time sink or half an hour to 40-minute time sink one way each day.
Mhm.
That and then it breaks your day up into this arbitrary chunk in the middle. You can't really do anything in the morning. You're always in the rush. You are super tired when you finally survive the commute and got back
Mhm.
home. So, of course, you feel like you are drained. You need a whole weekend to recharge. But suddenly, when you don't have that commute, those probably 1.5 hour of time each day is freed up to you. It means that you can start work whenever you want. You can end work whenever you want. You can take a 3 p.m. break to go to the gym. You
Mhm.
can go for a walk. You can like, I don't know, do laundry during lunchtime.
Yeah.
It provides so much more flexibility and control over your time. But at the same time, we also find that having the whole team together really makes a big difference in terms of motivation. It's
Mhm.
much easier to work with a group of people than on your own. We humans are social animals, after all. We simulate society, so we know all the science behind human group behavior. So we try to implement that in our company building as well. So how do you square having a whole group of people working together in person and no commute? Well, the answer is if you all live together and you have a big living room that you convert into an office, then that's great. But of
Mhm.
course, this only holds for a very lean team. So we
Right.
will try our best to hold on to our lean team because we've been able to build everything we have today with a core full-time team of 3 people and auxiliary. Right now we have 2 part-time employees with us for the summertime.
Mhm.
So it's doable. It's possible. You can build a company with a super lean team, and it gives so much more benefit these days. This is another thing that I think AI is changing the game on, and I
Mhm.
think smart founders will be leveraging that a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I love what you shared about having work and home being the same place because it's true. Like you said, I mean, you can have your start times and end times be whenever they want. You can take a random walk break if you need to refresh and come back. And I think that it provides so much more flexibility and opportunity compared to perhaps
Yeah.
being confined to a real office
Yes.
or something where you might be
So
outside of your home.
the important thing here is that you get along with your team. So
Yes.
it goes back to our earlier point about can you get along with that human?
Yeah.
Eventually, we are a very simple creature. We are just social animals. Can you get along with that person? Do you think you
Mhm.
can work together to build something together? It
Mhm.
comes down to that. And if you can, then great. You have a happy life.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And a little bit of a fun question I have for you. I am curious to hear if you use artificial societies to help you see how people will react to a new feature or update within artificial society. So do you use artificial societies for itself, if that makes sense?
Yes, we do that. So
Oh
we
my
do
gosh, I
use
love it.
that so we use that for every single one of our public posts on social
Hmm.
media, our announcements. Every week we write a little weekly update email to our supporters. We've been
Hmm.
doing that for the last almost a year now since the founding of the business. So every week we do test that in a little simulation of our supporters. And we also do that for our own product designs. Okay, what should this screen say
Hmm.
when we want to get people to do this? We'll simulate it. We'll get some sort of a responsive. We're like, okay, great. Let's address that before we actually put it out there. Because every minute and every hour, there are going to be real people landing on our site or going through our product. We want to minimize the number of people who's going through a bad experience.
Hmm.
So we can't afford to get it wrong. Let's simulate it and make sure that the experiment that we are running in real life actually counts. We do still run experiments, but we make sure that every alternative in the experiment counts by first pre-experimenting it in a simulation.
Oh, interesting. And what better way to see if your product works by actually using your product for itself, right? By being
Yes,
able to test
exactly.
it and use it yourself, like you're able to see from a user perspective or customer perspective what they would be able to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's a good forcing function.
Yes, totally. And one thing I would love for you to share with our listeners is that if there's anything you've learned along the way of your founder journey that you know now that you wish you knew back when you were first starting, what would that be?
Um, do things yourself. Don't push things onto, don't think that, oh, I'm just going to, for example, when you are raising money for the first time or the
Mhm.
second time, you need to work with lawyers. Don't think that you'll just push it to the lawyers and they will take care of it for you. It doesn't work like that. You have to make sure that things are working properly. So, because of that, I think it's quite important for founders to just know that you can just learn things. You can just try stuff. I think one thing that I was really scared of when I first started the company was B2B sales, which is kind of ironic because I studied psychology uh, as a researcher, as undergrad and research, and I'm the one in charge of fundraising. So, I should be quite good with chatting with people and doing that B2B sales. But I was terrified
Yeah.
until one day, my co-founder was just like, you know what, James, you're good with investors. You are gonna be fine with B2B sales as well. Just get over yourself and just get on with it. Just learn how to do it. And you can learn it. It's really easy. Just learn how to do it. And then this now extends to coding. to building an app, to dealing with database, to thinking about running an A/B test, you can do it yourself.
Mhm.
And it sort of goes against a lot of conventional wisdom about company building, where founders are recommended to raise some money and hire the expertise that you don't currently have. But
Mhm.
I think in the age of AI, you don't need to hire extra hands. Your hands can multiply because of AI.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
much easier to move your own hands than to tell someone else to do something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you brought up a great point there of like just know how to do what it is that you're looking to do, right? That doesn't mean that you need to always continue doing everything yourself moving forward, but I think it's important to at least understand these things so that way,
Absolutely.
yeah, as you delegate or outsource, like you at least know what it is and you at least know what's
Yes.
going on.
Yes, you need to be able to. I remember it was one of a batchmate at YC or someone who said that in order to hire the right sales, was it a sales development representative or someone else or another role? The founder just went and did that job for like a week or something, and trying to
Mhm.
understand what are the difficult bits, what are the easy bits, so that they can hire the right person. And I think it's doable. Like as founders, it's absolutely doable. It's not scary. Just break it down into small steps. Start from one thing at a time. Try it. It's okay to make mistakes. I think I would want to tell myself that when I first started. And I guess another thing is, yeah, just like pick the pick the simplest path. Don't try to do the overcomplicated things. Pick the simplest thing. And it's really simple. Just make something people want. Identify a group of people, identify what's their problem, and make it. So
Yes.
um, sometimes we overthink. It's
Yeah,
good to
honestly, that
stay
reminds me of
grounded.
a totally. That reminds me of a quote I heard once. It's just something along the lines of like, usually the right path or the right answer is the simplest path or the simplest answer. And it's true. I mean, it's, like you said, sometimes overcomplicating things can cause more problems or challenges or roadblocks in the long run rather than focusing on the simple solution right from the start.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. James, one of my favorite questions to ask our guests is I always encourage them to give a shout out to someone who's doing something cool in tech right now. So it could be another founder that you've admired, or a VC, consultant, builder, operator. Who is one person that you would love to give a shout out to and highlight on the show today?
I have a rogue one. This person is not a founder, not a VC, despite many founder want him to be a VC and many VC want him to be a founder. He is neither of those. So this person's name is Matt Carey. He runs the AI Demo Day events here in London, one of the best events in tech in London. So if the listener, you are in London and you want to get in touch with events in the space, search up AI Demo Day at Matt Carey. He works in tech as well. He's a great principal AI engineer, and he's just bring with himself such a great energy of joy to every event that he runs. I think he's a great contributor to the community, and as a social scientist, as someone who is building a company centered on understanding society, I think Matt's work contributes a lot to the ecosystem here. So I want to give Matt a shout out for all the work that he's doing at AI Demo Day.
I love it. That's such a nice shout out. I totally agree with you that anyone who's a community builder is
Hmm,
doing such important work with being able to bring people together and amplify the work that they're doing. So good choice on that one, James.
thank you.
James, this has been such a fun episode, and it's been so interesting to hear about your journey with artificial societies and how you've built it along the way. And now I'd love to give you the opportunity to share with our listeners where they can find you online if they'd like to connect.
Yeah, so you can try our product and use it at societies.io.
Mhm.
And the best way to follow our journey is by following us on LinkedIn. So if you search up James He, Artificial Societies on LinkedIn, you should be able to find me. We do create a lot of content. So my condolences in advance if it's too spammy.
All good there. And I will include those links in the show notes for our listeners. Thank you so much again for coming on this week's episode.
Thank you very much for having me.